I'm Paul Winn, and this is Coast Connections. And today we have a very interesting program for you about what's going on at the airport in Nanaimo. And then to tell us all about that, we have Lucie Gosselin, who is the chair of the airport board, and Mike Hooper, who is the president and CEO of the airport. Now, welcome.
Thank you.
Listen, I've driven past the airport so many times, and of course I always manage to stop, because every time I see a plane taking off or landing, I like to stop. But what is happening recently is there's been some announcements about expansions. Maybe you could tell me what that involves, what the expansions are concerned about.
Well, we have three different opportunities for the expansion. One of them is our fire hall that we've got ACAP funding for, $661,000 from the federal government to help us on it. The next one is the terminal building, and the terminal building is going to be an expansion for our boarding lounge and the security area. And through the Building Canada Fund, we've got a $7.5 million opportunity. 4.5 of that is coming from the federal and provincial government, and the rest is coming from us. And then we're also working on the apron for aircraft parking.
Yeah, what is the apron? Just
the apron is the paved area on the runway side of the terminal building, where the aircraft park.
Okay.
And we're getting so many aircraft there that we have to expand it.
Good.
And we've worked on that with a provincial grant, and we're looking to expand the apron so we can put four large aircraft on there at any given time.
Oh, great. You don't have coverage like from the plane to the terminal?
No, we don't have walkways now, but we will as we go into the future. That's in the long-term 20-year master plan.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Now, Lucie, you as the president, now, what role did you play in getting all this stuff on track?
Oh, of course, I did it all. Being chair of the board, of course, we're a governance board, so our role is setting direction and a sort of a strategic path to growth. And Mike, who also sits on the board, but as a non-voting member, is the president and CEO, and basically he's the one with the team that actually implements sort of the vision that the board comes up with. So we've been going through expansions, as you know, a number of times in the last 10 years. And it's because we've had some really successful growth. So, basically by building it, they did come, and it's put us back into a situation where we have to add again. So probably 2 years ago, we started seeing the writing on the wall that another expansion was required. And, Mike, put his motions in place so that he could raise the funds, because we couldn't do it on our own.
No.
We have some funds, where the airport is certainly in a good financial position to do some of it, but we needed some help from the two levels of government, and we got it. So that's
I think it's important. I mean, the government, not to be too political, but the government should be involved in helping transportation in this country, because that's the vastness of the country. It requires, I think, they did it for young kids many years ago with Katimavik and things like that, helping them hitchhike across the country. Well, maybe we're a little older now, we don't want to hitchhike. We want to get in a plane.
We want to take a flight, yes.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you, Mike, about, I was reading in the press release, something about 108%.
Yes.
Maybe you could explain that to me.
Well, in 2009, we went through the first expansion, which was extending the runway and putting in an instrument landing system. Before the instrument landing system went in, we were about 74% reliable in the winter months. Now we're over 98% reliable, the same as all other airports.
Right.
And by having the extension to the runway, we ended up having the ability of welcoming other companies such as WestJet and Air Canada. And we have more products now that are reliable. So since 2010, we've grown 108%. And it's really because we were underserving the community before that. And now that we have reliable options to fly to Vancouver, Calgary, and other destinations, we can really reach the world from the Nanaimo airport.
Oh, that's kind of neat because how much space do you have out there?
As far as land?
Yeah,
A land base, just under 500 acres. And, and some of it, of course, is used by the airport and the runways, et cetera.
Yes.
But we also have some available land for development around both on the air side and on the highway side.
Yeah.
But that was also on of course, with an airport, you have to protect your flight paths. You can't
Yes.
have towers and large buildings. So airports, usually by their nature have a lot of land surrounding them that they can sort of control what happens on there. So there's actually a golf course, the Cottonwood Golf Course is on our property,
okay.
and there's also a farm. And so both of those, lease from the airport, which is a source of income for us.
I was mentioning earlier, just before we started the show, I was asking Mike if there was going to be a place where those of us who like to plane watch can go and sit and lie down on our blankets and watch planes taking off and landing. Because I see that happen in other airports.
Yeah.
There's
a source of income. We,
Yeah.
we could rent the blankets. People could lay on their backs.
Yeah.
We could put in the Sky Lounge with the Nanaimo bar and stay at the bar.
That's right, exactly.
No, but the other thing I was interested about in relationship to the airport was how far in the future do you think it would be before international travel was going to happen?
Well, we're reaching out to a number of air carriers now. There's a conference called the Roots Conference, and all the airports and all the air carriers in North America, South America go to that once a year. And we've reached out to 10 different air carriers, and we're going to continue with that conversation. We're delighted with WestJet and Air Canada as our primary large air carriers. And between those air carriers and other ones, there's an opportunity to put in direct service to sun destinations in the coming years. And it's really the airport's job to put in the infrastructure, the runways, the terminal buildings, and then the air carriers make a decision when to come to a specific region based on the population growth. So the more our communities use the airport, the better our opportunity is to get an air carrier to come. So if you're going to fly, YCD is the place to be.
That's exactly right. Because to build on what Mike was saying about once the ILS came we were a lot more reliable. We still meet people all the time who think we're back like we were in 2007 when we had poor reliability because of fog. And that's no longer the case. We're just as reliable as any other airport on the island. And in fact, last year or 2 years ago, we had better statistics than YVR for weather issues. So, Nanaimo is just as good for when it comes to reliability. So the more people use it, because if people from this area go to Vancouver and fly out of there, no one knows about that demand.
Right.
And so, of course, the other air carriers won't come.
I thought we could fly straight from Nanaimo to Vegas. Is that a possibility?
We have the capability in the sense that we have the runway length. Our design aircraft was a 737-700W, and the 700 MAX can reach Panama. So from our runway, we can reach Hawaii, Mexico, and the Caribbean, and for sure Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But it's really going to be the air carrier that decides when they do a nonstop from Nanaimo to those destinations.
Yeah.
Guaranteed it will happen. It's a matter of when it happens.
I guess I was getting at, I don't know what size planes one needs to facilitate that,
Yeah.
in the days when I think of the 747s and that kind of machine, I don't know what could land here and what can't.
So the design aircraft that we have is at about 174 seaters, is the biggest aircraft that would come in, but they're narrow body. They're not the wide body that you'd get to go into Europe or Asia.
Right.
The perfect aircraft for us on the west coast of Canada is the Q400, the new Quiet 400 dash machines. They're very economical and they're very comfortable and they fly very well. But we will see 737s. Well, we'll see actually 737s this summer. There's some coming in under charter for specific groups. But as we go forward, we'll see 737s as part of our scheduled service also.
Well, we know that the winter sports is a great thing on the island. It would be nice to get people coming from different parts of Canada as well as the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Into
And that's where, as an airport, we understand that we have a big role to play in economic development. And so working with, we know about the sports on the island, we know about the Mount Washington, those types of things, but it's working with those groups in marketing and making other people aware. And as they attract and as some of the local areas, we've got some beautiful areas, whether it's Tofino or Parksville for the beaches in the winter, the storm watching. The airport plays a big role in getting people here, and those groups who are marketing their services play a big group there. So we need each other. They need us, we need them.
But see, this is the thing too, is I think of places I've traveled to for jazz festivals. You know what I mean? I think Nanaimo would be an ideal location for that kind of, it doesn't have to be jazz. I mean, it could be any kind of musical festival or something. Get people in, they got to fly in, then that, as you said, has a whole mix with hotels, restaurants,
Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Yeah.
Exactly. And we have critical business partners. Vancouver Island University, for example, is our single biggest user. Between the professors, the contractors, the students coming in, they're our biggest client, and they need reliable service. We need that business to do well, and it's a very symbiotic relationships that we have with different businesses.
Well, you may even get an increase of international students coming into this part of the world.
We do.
There's a lot of fluctuation that's happening as a result of what's going on in the United States. A lot of international students are picking Canada as a location to continue their studies.
Yeah. And VIU does have a big international program to start off with, so they're well positioned to capitalize on that.
You know, it's amazing. I mean, we're really talking about the airport. But when you think about it, it's like, well, we got to talk about the university. We got to talk about restaurants. We got to talk about hotels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just the airport itself, because it's the spin-off of how it affects the other issues.
We just finished an economic forecast study that looked at those spin-off direct and indirect.
Yes.
And by 2021, we're going to generate about 2,000 full-time jobs, direct and indirect, and $358 million annually to the regional economy.
Whoa, they're going to love you. You know that, eh? I mean,
and that economic impact study sort of looked at even the statistics today. Some of it is forecast, what Mike just talked about, but even today, already we're at about 1,200 to 1,300 jobs that are the spin-off of the airport.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and Nanaimo's growing. I mean, there's been a shift, of course, of the housing market in Vancouver has brought a number of people over here. I don't know whether they're retired or they're in the middle of their, occupation, but, the housing prices were affordable that weren't affordable in Vancouver. And so that means our population is spreading.
Yeah, and we're seeing that demographic. We're seeing folk move to the island from across Western Canada. And the benefit for us is that those folk then go back and visit the family, and the family comes here to visit them. So we love to see them.
I was going to ask you about the board. How many people are on your board?
We have 9 people on the board. So the board is made up of 5 of the positions are nominated by what we call our entities. Okay. So those are the bodies that have an interest in the airport and have some responsibility for the airport. And those entities are like the City of Nanaimo, the Regional District of Nanaimo, the Chamber of Commerce of Nanaimo, the Cowichan Valley Regional District, and the Town of Ladysmith. Okay. So each one of them nominates candidates, and then they're appointed by the airport. And the other 4 are members at large. Okay,
so then those people then become responsible for the airport and They
Yeah.
don't have to go back to their appointee and say, hey,
No.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nominees rather
Yeah.
than appointees, so
Yeah.
they
Okay,
wear
no.
the airport hat first, and it's a
and then
fabulous
that's it.
board. They've
Makes
done-
sense. I'm just curious because,
Yeah.
you know, like you mentioned it being a governance board, as
Yeah.
a, you know, which is
Yeah.
instead of a management board.
That's right. We don't get in. We
Yeah,
you
that
know we don't
becomes
get
your
involved.
problem.
Yeah, that's right.
You're the
We hold him
management guy.
responsible.
He's the management man.
Well, and I got to say that our team out there is fabulous. You know, we've had this snow year that we just went through was amazingly good compared to what it could have been. Our staff and the overall team at the airport is really amazing.
Yeah.
We also have 42 volunteers that are Blue Navigators that help people go through the airport.
Okay.
And these volunteers, hats off to all of them, because they're spending family time to work with folk going through the airport to help them both coming and going. The Blue Navigators are number one.
I've only been on the island a few years,
Yeah.
but I've only almost 5, and I've managed to use the airport. I think 3 times I've been in the airport to go over to the mainland and take a destination flight to Toronto and back. So that's my familiarity
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
with the restaurant, and I mean with the airport, and it was kind of cool. It was, I mean, it was painless.
The beauty, I mean, I fly a lot, and
Right.
the beauty of booking your trips from Nanaimo, certainly you wouldn't be booking to just go to Vancouver, obviously. It doesn't make economic sense. But wherever, it really connects you to the rest of the world, and the beauty of booking right here is that you're handing over your bags and you see them whenever you arrive at your destination. So it's so hassle-free. It's a very a great way. And if you don't mind, I'd like to continue expanding on the board because we were talking about the
please.
appointees. But
Yeah.
the other thing that we do is we have a competency matrix that we follow to make sure that our board has a whole diversity of skills sets and experience, so that we do cover sort of all areas, whether it's legal, accounting, property development, aviation. So if you looked at the individual board members, you would not 2 of them are the same. I mean,
Right.
there's quite a variety there of.
Well, that's
of people.
important. I mean, if you want it to work properly, that's good. Like I sit on a nonprofit board, and it's a governance board too. So I understand what you're talking about. You try to get a variety of mix so that the skill set from the board can be a good governance body. You know,
And it's a great board. It's part of the reason for our success is the board works for win-wins. The staff do, the volunteers, and the air carriers, the security folk. They're all working as a team out there, and it's a joy to work with them,
And
including
even your
the board.
tenants. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of tenants that are on the at the airport. I mean, so there's a lot of people, vibrancy to the airport that's developing.
Now you mentioned volunteers. That's how would somebody who maybe had an interest, contact you to say, look, I'd like to volunteer?
Yeah, well, they can contact us in a number of ways, or they can phone us, and our phone number's in the out there and available. They can go through our website. They can contact me directly. My phone number's out there. But the person that's overseeing and working with the volunteers is Lori Hawthornthwaite, and she's done a fabulous job to work with the folk and grow it to 42 individuals.
What kind of stuff would they do? Like the volunteers?
Yeah, well, they're working with the passengers at different times of the day, and they're helping them as they go through the experience from the curbside all the way through to the boarding lounge. And a lot of people going through are excited about what they're doing, and some of them are a little nervous, and some of them are going because of tough things that they're going to go visit or coming here to see. And the volunteers help them with any questions, concerns, all the way through the process.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's good because I'm hoping that the viewers, somebody said, look, maybe I live close enough, I wouldn't mind, I want something to do.
Yeah.
And
And if they're curious to see, what it looks like, if you go into the airport at any time of the day, you'll see them. They have blue vests.
Okay.
And that's why we call them the Blue Navigators, I imagine, right?
Yep. Yeah,
They have the blue vests, and most of them are sort of early retirees, and I think they've got a bit of a social network happening there too. They seem to be enjoying what they're doing, and I've seen them help we have a lot of seniors coming in and going, and some do need a little bit more assistance, just finding directions or making sure they've got their, whoever's picking them up, they find whoever's picking them up. So that's where I've seen them get quite involved as well.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the flights I was on, I noticed there was somebody had an ambulatory problem, and I saw them assisted, but I didn't realize they were volunteers at the airport.
Yeah, well, some of them are, and then there's also trained folk on staff. So we also have now firefighters, ARF responders.
Right.
When we hit the certain size of the airport, we had to put in a full-time fire hall, which is what we're building now. So sometimes you'll see folk that are paid assisting, and sometimes it'll be volunteers.
Do you ever have tours of the airport? I mean, is there anything like that?
Yeah. We used to do a lot of them. It's sort of slowed down in the last 4 or 5 years, but we've done everything from Cub Scouts through to university tours and industry tours. So,
We also have 1 or 2 public open houses
Yep.
per year.
Okay.
And we do have a website, and I imagine those public open houses are posted on there.
Yep.
And we also, try to push it out through social media and the paper. So people are certainly welcome to come in. Usually it's not very formal, it's more informal, and there's a bit of an update on what's happening at the airport. So
Well, I'm going to check out the website, because next time there's an open house, I just like seeing those things. I just think, and I look and I see some of and you learn a lot about the history of the place and what it does and how it functions and what role it plays in your community.
And we often do a free barbecue at the open house too.
Oh,
so.
but that's even more requirement. Because that makes, in my mind, that makes a facility the property of the community, if you know what I mean. You don't have to own it, but you have an ownership in it, in a sense, because you can use it and enjoy it, and then get a blanket out there and lie on the grass and watch the planes landing and taking off.
Yeah, exactly.
This is good. I guess we got about 5 minutes left, and I don't know if there's anything specific that you thought you might like to touch on.
I would like to really say, and Lucie will want to say this too, but really extend an appreciation to the federal government, the provincial government, municipal governments, and our communities for helping us out on the financial aspects. Airports are capital intensive. We have likely $100 to $104 million of growth over the next 30 years to grow the terminal, the apron, the taxiways, the roadways, the infrastructure. And because it's an economic engine, it's really imperative that we do get some outside assistance on this transportation hub. And we really appreciate it. People like Michelle Stilwell and folk on the government have been just fabulous.
Yeah, they've really come through for us, and we've been very lucky that way. And and when you think of it, $100 million that over the next 25 years, and even in the next 3 to 4 years, we're probably talking 20 million. That's a lot of money being reinvested in the community. All those construction jobs, all that work, and then of course we've got the machine afterwards with the airport to continue with the economic development. So, but definitely we're very appreciative.
You're right. It takes money, but it generates money, and it puts jobs out there, and it also gives opportunities to do your volunteer thing if you.
It adds an attraction as well to the community when people are thinking of relocating somewheres or moving their families somewheres. If they have the ability to, they have an airport that's reliable, it's a lot easier for them. And we had, when the boom in Fort McMurray was going on, we had families living, enjoying this beautiful island, even if the father was going back and forth and working in Fort McMurray, or the mother or the parent. And having the airport, it allowed that to happen. So
I had a family illness, And it was nice to be able to fly from here to make a connection because I had to get to Toronto. And it made a real difference of having to think, oh, well, geez, I got to take a ferry. I mean, you know, nothing of the ferries.
No,
but
that's right.
it's just, it was time consuming. And I wanted to get where I wanted to get fast. I
Right.
didn't want to take a day and get across and then wait a night and then get the next plane or, you know, into Toronto. So having that facility right in your community is an advantage. And you know, I don't wish that on people to have an emergency in their family to exercise.
But if you're going to
that.
have it, yes.
It's nice to have.
Yeah. And the airports are more than transporting folk for those reasons, but those are critical reasons. We also have a new company on site that's called Alcan Air, and they've just built a hangar, and they're a medical evac company that's based out of Whitehorse. And so they have now a contract in the province of BC, and they've built a hangar to put their head office for BC at the Nanaimo airport.
Oh, nice.
And they're just starting to build that medical evac. So it's critical to meet and reach out to family, and it's also critical to have that medical evac service.
You see, these are all things that, I mean, probably the community doesn't know much about, you know, like, I mean, it's not, but I'm hoping that, you know, our discussion today is going to inform people.
Stimulate some interest.
They can ask questions, and they know that you're nice people, that you won't bite them, and they can contact you and, you know, get their questions answered. I think that's really important. And we're just about out of time. And
We really appreciate it, Paul. Thank you for the opportunity.
hey, well, thank you very much for the time you've spent with me today, and I hope the public gets a good idea of what takes place at the airport. And this has been Coast Connection. And if you have any suggestions or ideas for a show, just follow that number on the bottom of the screen and contact Annette, and she'll be happy to see that you get a hearing and maybe even be on this show. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.